The silence cracked under accumulated truth. Voices long ignored rose together. Hidden wounds surfaced before the world. Denial collapsed under lived experience. What was whispered became openly declared. A people stood upright at last. Injustice was taught as normal routine. Cruelty was enforced as daily order. Unequal rules shaped every interaction. Respect was rationed by imposed hierarchy. Suffering repeated without accountability. Endurance became a silent language. Oppression was exposed to the world. Silence was no longer possible. Humiliation ended through resistance. Dignity reclaimed its place. Freedom emerged from long suffering. Courage replaced imposed fear. Broken chains marked a beginning, not the end of struggle. Pain could have turned into blind revenge. Anger was redirected toward justice. Healing required clarity, not vengeance. Future demanded restraint with strength. Hatred was rejected as a weapon. Consciousness chose principled resistance. Moral ground was carefully preserved. Oppression was confronted without losing humanity. Freedom arrived, carrying heavy obligation. Liberation demanded discipline and vision. Self-rule required collective maturity. Excuses could no longer be tolerated. Rights demanded active protection. Passivity became a dangerous threat. Each action shaped tomorrow's outcome. Responsibility retains imposed control. Oppression was exposed to the world. Silence was no longer possible. Humiliation ended through resistance. Dignity reclaimed its place. Freedom emerged from long suffering. Courage retraced imposed fear. Broken chains marked the beginning, not the end of struggle. Land and labor regained their meaning. Work transformed into self-determination. Decisions returned to collective hands. Dependency was recognized as control. Value creation became a priority. Exploitation was named and challenged. The future demanded internal production. Survival depended on strategic unity. The moment reshaped collective consciousness. Submission was permanently questioned. Fear lost its authority over thought. Courage became socially acceptable. Voices multiplied at past tribunity. Awareness spread beyond intimidation. A line was crossed without return. History shifted through collective will. Oppression was exposed to the world. Silence was no longer possible. Humiliation ended through resistance. Dignity reclaimed its place. Freedom emerged from long suffering. Courage replaced imposed fear. Broken chains marked a beginning, not the end of struggle. Freedom was never a final destination. It became a continuous responsibility. The struggle evolved into stewardship. Vigilance replaced celebration alone. Chains once broken can be reforged. Conscious people ensure they never return.
Law was presented as neutral truth. Reality exposed selective application. Rules shifted depending on identity. Fairness became a distant concept. Authority protected itself through bias. Obedience was demanded without equality. Standards were enforced equally. Punishment depended on position. Some voices were automatically believed. Others were dismissed without hearing. Injustice disguised itself as procedure. Order was maintained through imbalance. Unequal laws reveal domination. Fairness demands equal treatment. Justice loses meaning without balance. Discrimination destroys legitimacy. Rights apply to every human being. Hierarchy poisons social order. True law protects all citizens without exception or privilege. Partial justice breeds lasting resentment. Resentment weakens social cohesion. Trust collapses under double standards. Institutions lose moral authority. Fear replaces respect for the law. Compliance becomes survivor driven. Stability erodes from within systems. Injustice plants seeds of disorder. Equal treatment restores collective trust. Consistency strengthens social contracts. Law gains legitimacy through fairness. Authority becomes accountable to all. Justice educates through example. Balance prevents abuse of power. Right cease being symbolic language. Equality transforms principle and seed into practice. Unequal odds reveal domination. Fairness demands equal treatment. Justice loses meaning without balance. Discrimination destroys legitimacy. Rights apply to every human being. Hierarchy poisons social order. True law protects all citizens without exception or privilege. Power must accept clear limitations. Oversight protects against corruption. Rules must bind every position equally. Immunity invites systematic abuse. Service defines legitimate authority. Privilege contradicts public responsibility. Law exists to protect the people, not to shield wrongdoing. Justice requires active public awareness. Silence enables continued imbalance. Citizens must demand consistency. Rights weaken when unguarded. Equality survives through participation. Passivity strengthens unfair systems. Every generation inherits responsibility to preserve justice through vigilance. Unequal laws reveal domination. Fairness demands equal treatment. Justice loses meaning without balance. Discrimination destroys legitimacy. Rights apply to every human being. Hierarchy poisons social order. True law protects all citizens without exception or privilege. Justice must remain visible and fair. Legitimacy unequals inequality. Law without violence loses authority. Order without justice cannot last. Equal protects all, secures dignity. Fair law sustains collective peace. The soil remembers every footprint. History is written beneath the ground. Land carried life before borders and sustained families across generations. Displacement disrupted natural order. Loss of land weakened collective stability. Ownership was rewritten, crawling code rules. Legality masked organized dispossession. Communities were separated from survival. Ancestral ties were dismissed as irrelevant. Fields became instruments of control. Hunger followed for separation. Land taken through false legality must return through collective will. Soul feeds identity and survivor. Dispossession creates generational poverty. Resources exist for the people. Exploitation benefits only outsiders. exaltation rooted in its land, stands firm against domination. Land is not merchandise alone. It carries memory and responsibility. Farming links effort to reward. Stewardship ensures continuity of life. Disconnection breaks economic independence. Dependency grows where roots are removed. Control of land shapes destiny. Access defines collectives of labor. Without land, production collapses. Consumption replaces self-reliance. Wealth extraction drains communities. Profit flows away from labor. Poverty becomes structurally enforced. Development stalls without ownership. Landlessness limits future planning. Stability requires secure foundations. Land taken through false legality must return through collective will. Soil feeds identity and survival. Dispossession creates generational poverty. Resources exist for the people. Exploitation benefits only outsiders. A nation rooted in its land stands firm against domination. Recovery begins with awareness. Organization transforms grievance into action. Unity strengthens rightful claims. Division delays restitution. Policy must serve inhabitants, not distant interests. Land reform restores balance. Justice reconnects people to survival. Ownership demands ethical use. Exploitation must be rejected internally. Future generations depend on restraint. Sustainability ensures long-term prosperity. Land cared for returns abundance. Neglect invites decline. Stewardship replaces extraction logic. Responsibility secures continuity. Land taken through false legality must return through collective will. Soil feeds identity and survival. Dispossession creates liberation or comity. Resources exist for the people. Exploitation benefits only outsiders. A nation rooted in its land stands firm against domination. Freedom stands on secure land. Independence grows from the soil. A people disconnected from land suffer. A people reconnected regain strength. Roots restore confidence and agency. Grounded nations refence domination.
on transformation. Promises without material change we can believe. Progress became the true measure of liberation. Political control changed hands visibly. Economic reality remained unchanged. Institutions existed without capacity. Resources flowed without local benefit. Liberty lacked productive foundations. Independence required deeper construction. Political freedom without progress remains an empty promise. Economic strength secures independence. Dependency renews control. Work creates sustainable wealth. Assistance often hides domination. Development chosen by the people protects future generations. Work transforms potential into value. Skill multiplies natural resources. Productive effort builds confidence. Idleness breeds frustration and dependency. Labor connects dignity to survival. Creation replaces constant consumption. Employment stabilizes communities. Productivity strengthens collective autonomy. External support often carries conditions. Conditions quietly limit decision making. Reliance weakens long-term planning. Short-term relief delays structural growth. Dependency erodes initiated gradually. Control returns through economic pressure. True support respects self-correction. Growth must be internally driven. Political freedom without progress remains an empty promise. Economic strength secures independence. Dependency renews control. Work creates sustainable wealth. Assistance often hides domination. Development chosen by the people protects future generations. Development must answer real needs, not abstract external expectations. Local knowledge guides sustainable planning. Communities understand their own priorities. Inclusive growth reduces inequality. Participation increases accountability. Shared prosperity strengthens stability. Exclusion undermines social cohesion. Education prepares productive citizens. Infrastructure supports long-term growth. Innovation adapts solutions locally. Investment-free growth, collective vision. Delayed planning costs generation. Shortcuts produce fragile outcomes. In future security boat arrived wrapped in friendly language. Promises sounded generous and reassuring. Assistance appeared without visible change, yet influence followed quietly behind. Power shifted through subtle condition. Controller to wear a smiling face. Help was offered with expectations attached. Decisions were redirected discreetly. Dependence grew under repeated reliance. Initiative slowly lost its priority. Gratitude replaced critical questioning. Autonomy weakened without confrontation. Control disguise as support maintains unequal power relations. Dominance weakens sovereignty. Self-reliance builds confidence. Aid without dignity enslaves nations. Autonomy restores decision-making. True partnership respects equality. Disguise control must be rejected. Dependency reshapes collective mindset. Confidence erodes through repeated reliance. Self-belief is replaced by permission-seeking. Creativity waits for external approval. Choices narrow under invisible pressure. Freedom fades without visible force. Mental submission precedes material loss. Control begins inside before it appears outside. Resources arrive tied to specific outcomes. Local priorities are quietly sidelined. Production is discouraged through imports. Consumption replaces internal growth. Debt becomes a tool of influence. Pressure increases during moments of need. Economic strings tightening gradually. Independence weakens through obligation. Control disguise as support maintains unequal power relations. Dependence weakens sovereignty. Self-reliance builds confidence. Aid without dignity enslaves nations. Autonomy restores decision-making. True partnership respects equality. Disguise control must be rejected. True cooperation allows equal voice. Mutual respect guides shared action. Support must strengthen independence, not replace internal responsibility. Agreements require transparency. Conditions must serve collective interests. Partnership is built on balance. Equality defines genuine cooperation. Internal capacity demands patient investment. Shortcuts delay sustainable strength. Local production restores confidence. As development secures long-term stability. Planning replaces emergency response. Vision outlives temporary relief. Self-reliance transforms relationships. Strength commands respect naturally. Control disguise as support maintains unequal power relations. Dependence weakens sovereignty. Self-reliance builds confidence. Aid without dignity enslaves nations. Autonomy restores decision-making. True partnership respects equality. Disguise control must be rejected. Freedom requires constant awareness. Coronation evolves with new appearances. Independence demands discernment. And every offers ends liberation. Clear vision protects autonomy. Conscious people reject hidden control. division was introduced as natural difference. Boundaries were emphasized to separate minds. Communities were taught to compete internally. Attention was diverted from shared interests. Fragmentation weakened collective awareness. Control thrived where unity was absent. Differences are exaggerated for advantage. Minor distinctions became major conflicts. Suspicion replaced mutual understanding. Trust eroded through repeated manipulation. Inner peoples wasted on internal disputes. Common moves fended from focus. Artificial divisions weaken resistance. Unity strengthens collective myth spreads fragmentation. Benefit external control. Solidarity protects common interest. Shared purpose overcomes manipulation. Internal conflict delays liberation. United people secure freedom. Divided ones prolong suffering. Division drains economic potential. Resources are scattered inefficiently. Negotiating power collapses when split. Voices lose strength when isolated. Development slows under constant rivalry. Progress requires coordinated effort. Conflict consumes time and energy. Unity redirects focus towards growth. Unity does not erase diversity. It aligns difference towards purpose. Shared objective guide collective action. Motivation multiplies individual strength. Mutual respect stabilizes alliances. Dialogue replaces destructive competition. Organization transforms numbers into influence. Togetherness converts vision into reality. Artificial divisions weaken resistance. Unity strengthens collective defense. Fragmentation benefits coma control. Solidarity protects common interest. Shared purpose overcomes manipulation. Internal conflict delays liberation. United people secure freedom. Divided ones prolong suffering. Healing begins with honest reflection. False narratives must be challenged openly. Education dismantles inherited suspicion. Awareness exposes manipulation tactics. Common struggles reveal shared destiny. Empathy rebuilds fractured relations. Unity grows through intentional effort. Peace strengthens collective resolve. When unity becomes habitual practice, strength emerges across all sectors. Decisions reflect shared priorities. Representation gains true legitimacy. Negotiation shifts power balances. Respect replaces dismissal. Unified people command rhetoric, peace and strength discourages exploit. Artificial divisions weaken resistance. Unity strengthens collective defense. Fragmentation benefits external control. Solidarity protects common interest. Shared purpose overcomes manipulation. Internal conflict delays liberation. United people secure freedom. Divided ones prolong suffering. Unity is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical necessity. Survival depends on collective alignment. Progress requires shared direction. Together people determine outcomes. Division never serves liberation.
Respect was selectively distributed. Human value was measured by obedience. Silence was mistaken for acceptance. Yet dignity remained internally preserved, waiting for the moment to rise. Submission was presented as survival. Fear was normalized through repetition. Humiliation became a routine experience. Confidence was intentionally eroded. Standing upright carried consequences. Compliance was rewarded with tolerance. Dignity defines human worth. Submission destroys self-respect. Life without honor lacks meaning. Courage restores moral strength. Fear collapses before conscience. Integrity outlives oppression. A dignified people stand tall, even in sacrifice. Oh, in sacrifice. Dignity survived beneath external pressure. Conscience refused permanent silence. Inner conviction challenged imposed limits. Self-respect resisted gradual erosion. Moral clarity strengthened resolve. Submission lost its false appeal. Courage formed quietly within. Resistance began in the mind. Standing firm required visible bravery. Risk accompanied every honest action. Fear was confronted through principle. Integrity guided difficult decisions. Short-term safety was rejected. Long-term dignity took priority. Example inspired collective strength. Courage spread through shared resolve. Dignity defines human worth. Dignity defines human worth. Submission destroys self-respect. Life without honor lacks meaning. Courage restores moral strength. Fear collapses before conscience. Integrity outlives oppression. A dignified people stand tall, even in sacrifice. Oh, yeah. Oh. Dignity often demanded sacrifice. Comfort was not always guaranteed. Loss accompanied moral consistency. Yet self-respect remained intact. Compromise threatened long-term identity. Honor preserved collective memory. Sacrifice heritage, judicial value. Future generations learn resilience. Dignity practiced collectively transforms society. Standards rise through shared expectation. Respect becomes non-negotiable norm. Abuse loses social acceptance. Confidence reshapes public interaction. Self-worth influences decision making. A dignified people command recognition. Pride stabilizes collective identity. Yeah. Dignity defines human worth. Submission destroys self-respect. Life without honor lacks meaning. Courage restores moral strength. Fear collapses before conscience. Integrity outlives oppression. A dignified people stand tall, even in sacrifice. commitment. It cannot be postponed or borrowed. Honor shapes both present and future. Self-respect anchors true freedom. Those who stand upright inspire others. Dignity remains forever non-negotiable. Stories were filtered through selective voices. Silence was imposed on lived experience. Memory was treated as a threat. Truth was delayed but never erased. Time carried unspoken testimony. History waited patiently to respond. Accounts were rewritten to justify dominance. Pain was minimized through official versions. Resistance was framed as disorder. Oppression was normalized through repetition. Voices were excluded from records, yet reality persisted beyond censorship. Truth survives temporary suppression. Lies expire with time. Historic narratives collapse. Eventually people reclaim their story. Memory preserves to repetitive struggle. Forgetting repeats exploitation. History answers injustice beyond imposed version. Memory links generations through experience. Lessons travel through shared recollection. Stories preserve warning and wisdom. Forgetting opens doors to repetition. Collective memory strengthens identities. Awareness protects against manipulation. Remembered struggle guides future choices. History educates when consciously preserved. Erasure aimed to weaken resistance. Disconnection reduces collective confidence. Without memory, identity dissolves. Direction is lost without context. Control thrives where history is absent. Confusion replaces informed action. Restoring memory restores power. Knowledge disrupts imposed narratives. Truth survives temporary suppression. Lies expire with time. Distorted narratives collapse. Eventually people reclaim their story. Memory preserves collective struggle. Forgetting remains exploitation. History answers injustice beyond imposed version. Truth-telling requires deliberate effort. Research counters embarrassment. Education rebalances distorted understanding. Dialogue repairs broken cantonly. Communities must document experience. Stories must be preserved internally. Ownership of narrative empowers action. Self-definition in replaces imposed identity. Time exposes contradictions eventually. Falsehoods struggle to sustain coherence. Truth aligns with lived reality. Consistency gives it lasting strength. Justice may be delayed but persists. History accumulates undeniable evidence. Voices silenced today reappear tomorrow. Truth outlives all suppression. Truth survives temporary suppression. Lies expire with time. Distorted narratives collapse. Shari people reclaim their story. Memory preserves collective struggle. Forgetting repeats exploitation. History answers injustice beyond imposed versions. History cannot be permanently silenced. It speaks through evidence and memory. Truth resurfaces beyond control. Time exposes all distortions. Those who preserve memory remain vigilant. History always speaks in the end.
Repression, targeted visible resistance. Power assumed fear and conviction. Bodies were treated as final barriers. Ideas were underestimated repeatedly. For silence voices temporarily. Belief continued beyond physical limits. Oppression relied on intimidation. Violence was mistaken for resolution. Elimination was expected to erase purpose. Control depended on spreading fear. Yet conviction was rooted deeper. Ideas live beyond individual career. Bodies may be destroyed, principles continue advancing. Sacrifice nourishes future resistance. Purpose survives repression. A fallen voice echoes longer than imposed silence. Just causes outlive violence. Truth remains undefeated. Sacrifice transforms loss into meaning. Suffering becomes collective instruction. Witnessed courage reshapes awareness. Fear loses authority through example. Pain exposes injustice clearly. Martyrdom educates beyond words. Sacrifice strengthens moral clarity. Commitment multiplies through memory. Ideas transfer across generations. Belief adapts to new conditions. Suppression alters methods, not objectives. Purpose evolves but never disappears. Each attempt to erase conviction fails. Truth reemerges in renewed form. Struggle continues through different voices. Ideals travel faster than repression. Bodies may be destroyed, principles can continue advancing. Sacrifice nourishes future resistance. Purpose survives repression. A fallen voice echoes than imposed silence. Just causes outlive violence. Truth remains undefeated. Fear relies on temporary dominance. Truth depends on lasting coherence. Force weakens as legitimacy fades. Integrity gains strength through consistency. Violence creates visible injustice. Exposure accelerates moral awakening. Oppression reveals its own weakness. Truth gathers supporters through clarity. Every sacrifice leaves instruction behind. Future movement demands determination, of which become historic preference. Resistance gains ethical foundation. Ideas mature through hardship. Commitment deepens through sacrifice. Legacy replaces individual presence. Birth survives beyond lifespan. Bodies may be destroyed. Principles continue advancing. Sacrifice nourishes future resistance. Purpose survives repression. A falling voice echoes longer than imposed silence. Just causes outlive violence. Truth remains undefeated. Violence cannot defeat conviction. Force never erases belief. Ideas persist through time and memory. Truth resists all forms of repression. Those who fall strengthen the cause. Ideas remain forever undefeated.
Freedom arrived carrying heavy expectations. Acceleration briefly must ongoing duties. Victory did not eliminate future threats. Responsibility replaced mere resistance. Liberty demanded constant awareness. Neglect risk preventing hard-won gains. Freedom was not a permanent guarantee. It required daily maintenance and care. Rights survive through active defense. Silence allowed erosion to begin. But not at courage, dangerous forgetfulness. Vigilance remained the true safeguard. Freedom requires constant defense.
neglecting vice domination. Rights preserved through vigilance. Decay begins with complacency. Each generation must protect liberty. Inheritance alone is fragile. A conscious people sustain freedom. Careless ones lose it. Complacency dulls collective awareness. Threats grow unnoticed in quiet moments. Power slowly shifts without resistance. Control returns through subtle changes. Freedoms unused begin to weaken. Rights ignored lose practical meaning. History warns against inattention. Loss often follows comfort. Representation keeps freedom functional. Engagement prevents concentration of power. Citizenship demands informed action. Passivity creates space for abuse. Oversight protects shared interests. Accountability strengthens institutions. Responsibility distributes authority. Involvement secures collective ownership. Freedom must be consciously transmitted. Education anchors its true meaning. Memory connects struggle to responsibility. Lessons prevent repeated loss. Youth inherit both rights and duties. Guidance shapes future guardians of all this replaces blind entitlement. Knowledge sustains long-term liberty. Freedom survives through shared discipline. Individualism alone weakens protection. Collective responsibility multiplies strength. Unity defends common interest. Prepared societies resist manipulation. Alert communities discourage validation. Evaluation requires some pillars preference. Meeting and security requires constant defense. Neglecting vice domination. Rights preserved through vigilance. Decay begins with complacency. Each generation must protect liberty. Inheritance alone is fragile. A conscious people sustain freedom. Careless ones lose it. Freedom must be guarded intentionally.